Hi, this is the Black Bear Prepper, and today we're going to do a stove versus stove video. These came out when I started realizing that louder stoves weren't always faster than quieter stoves. We saw this with the WG stove by Snow Peak, and then again with the Whisper Light from MSR. So we came up with some ways to quiet the Dragonfly down with the Quietstove. And if you've already seen our videos on Quietstove, you see that that's actually slowed down the stove. Now, there's a new cap out called the Silent Dampener cap. They're from Korea, and they have been a huge improvement. And we kind of wanted to show you a couple tests on this to kind of show you what's going on. Now, some pluses and minuses here. The Quietstove cap definitely brings the flame out to the side, so if you're doing fry pans, things like that, it definitely works better. The new cap is more like a jet boil or an Etta Express stove, like my favorite stove, where the flame is being shot directly into the bottom of the pan. So it's not pushing it off to the side and then curling up the heat. So it tends to be a lot faster. But again, it's not spreading out the flame, so you're getting less cooking surface. So if you're doing a lot of cooking, the Quietstove might be yours. For me, I do a lot of water boiling, so about 90% of what I do is water boiling. So this is the one I'll be using from now on. Now we have modified it slightly by putting some pins in the top of the burner here to hold the cap in, because it does not stay locked in like the Quietstove and like the Bernie caps and some of the other brands out there. So we're going to do two things today. We're going to do a noise test to see which one's louder, because this is a silent cap per se. We're going to do a boil test with two identical pans. And then we're going to show you my favorite pan, the MSR, or the Primus Etta 3-liter pot, which is how I use it in the snow. So these are all going to be done with 1 liter of water. They've all been setting in this room, our climate-controlled environment per se, at about 70 degrees for the past 3.5 hours. So it was tap water to in the building, so they've evened out at about that temperature. So that's what we are. Both these stoves have been pumped the same. They've been pumped up quite hard so that we can get a good burn out of them. And about 50 pumps. And we've also had the exact same amount of fluid in each one. About 22 ounces of fuel. About that halfway mark. So at that point, we're set to go. Both these stoves have been tested. They both run fairly similar with the flame plate on there, but I think we're going to see such a dramatic that any differences in the stove will be taken up through this. So the first thing we're going to do is fire up the stoves, and let's get a sound test going. So, and again, this is, just off my phone, so it's not anything super fancy. Let them get back up to a full. Okay, that is the Quietstove cap. That one at full blast is coming in at 63 on average. Oh, we got a little underburn there. Looks like we may have to let this one heat up a little bit. May have let this one cool down just a little too much. Let's see if I can get it to heat up enough to where it will work. There we go. Now, I found this one to be a little louder, so we got to let it come back up to operating temperature here. But as you'll see, instead of coming out the sides, the flames are coming straight up in a column. Okay, so let's do this test right here in the same spot. So we're getting right about 64. So we're talking about 1 dB. So not that much difference in sound. The next thing we have is we're going to fire them both up. Get them both up to full blast operating temperature. And there's quite a little bit of heat coming off these stoves. We have 2 identical pots, 2 identical amounts of water. We're going to put them on and see what we get for time. So I'm going to give it just a good amount of time to come up to speed here. Okay, and we'll see which one boils faster. Alright, I can hear them both roaring at their full blast, and I'm gonna, all the valves are open, wide open. So here we go. Now, with the Quietstove, it is a little slower than the standard stove by itself, which is not a huge problem for people that cook all the time. People that are going to be using it as a cooking, for, baking or whatever they're going to do. Great stove for that. It is 100%, at least a good 50% quieter than the original burner plate. Now, saying that, I think we're going to see quite a big difference in the time it takes to boil this water. And keep in mind, it's not our fastest pot. So we can already see bubbles starting to form. We're at 1 minute right now on the silent dampener cap, and we're not really, just barely starting to see bubbles forming on the Quietstove. So I'm figuring we're going to get a boil time of right around 3.5 minutes on the silent dampener cap, and a little closer to 4.5 on the Quietstove. So about a minute different in a liter, which is a lot when you're doing lots of liters of water. If you're only going to do a little bit, you're doing maybe some hot chocolate or something like this, and you're using it more as a summer stove, not that big of a deal. But my stoves run constantly on the trips we're running, so quiet is a big thing, but also being able to keep up with the constant need for what we need as far as water. So let's see, we're already getting a boil right now, and we're 2 minutes 8 seconds. So we're starting to see, we've not hit a full series boil yet, but I think we're going to have even better than I thought, truthfully. Keep in mind, this test is not to show how fast the dragonfly can boil water, because that has to do with ambient temperature, wind, all kinds of things. Where what we're showing is the difference between the 2 caps. Is there an advantage or disadvantage to one or the other? And in this boil time, I feel there's a definite advantage. So we're right now at 2 minutes 58 seconds. And we're actually getting a boil now. We're not at a full rolling boil, and we're just starting to see bubbles really forming on the other one. So we are at a full rolling boil at I'm going to give a worst case scenario. It's at a full rolling boil right now. Just at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So it did pretty much what we thought it was going to do. And we'll see how long it takes and then we'll do a boil time with our Etta pot, which is our favorite pot for this type of a situation. Big enough to hold snow. Also with the actual reactor ring, I see a huge advantage in that. So we were at about 3.5 minutes, keep that in mind. And I want to give that standard number. It actually probably boiled a little bit before that, but truthfully I'm fine with saying that it hit where it needed to hit. So right now we're at 4 minutes 20 seconds. I have found the reason I use white gas stoves versus like a pressurized stove is that they tend to burn consistently all the way through the bottle. So as long as you're constantly pumping, you know, to keep up the pressure, they tend to burn almost exactly all the way through the bottle, almost all the way down to nothing. So definitely an advantage in cost to speed and efficiency. Now keep in mind, people are going to talk about efficiency in the stove. Now when you're dealing with another stove and a dragonfly, we have to then weigh the bottles to see how much fuel has actually been used in a comparison like this. What we're showing is just the difference in the caps. Since the stoves are the same and they're turned up to full blast, they're using the exact same amount of fuel. So right now, we're just barely starting to see an actual boil. And we're going to go about 5 minutes 30 seconds, 5 minutes 25 seconds, and we're at our full boil. Okay, so as you can see there, that's quite a significant difference, about 2 minutes to really see. Now that's with these standard pots. I'm not saying that they're anything special. So what I really wanted you guys to see is we're going to go ahead and crank the stove back up real quick and see how long it takes to use this other pot and see if there's any real advantage. I've said there's an advantage, so let's see if there actually is. Remember, both these are liter. All three of these are liter times. So MSR says that their stove boils a liter of water in 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. I've never seen that with one of their stoves until this cap was put on there. Keep in mind, it's only about 30 seconds slower to have this one on there. So I'm getting boil times really for liter times, 4.5 minutes, really is what I'm seeing. Okay? So now we're up to full speed here. We're going to go ahead and slam on our pots. And see if there really is an advantage to using this stove with this configuration. Now normally I do run a windscreen on them, you know, that we fold out and put around here, but I've left that off so you guys can see the burner to show the differences in the burner. We're inside, so we don't really need it. But it does actually help funnel a lot of that heat back up in there that is lost. I mean, you can feel heat coming off the side. And it also helps protect your fuel bottle. So as much as you can, you really, even if you're not in a windy situation, you want to run that windscreen at least up against the fuel bottle to keep the fuel bottles from getting too hot. Alright, we're at 54 seconds right now. We're already starting to see some bubbling happening. These reactor ring pots are amazing. Don't get me wrong, I really do love them. I think it's well worth the money. These cost about 70 bucks. It's you know, 65 to 70 bucks shipped to your house from eBay. REI doesn't carry them in our area, and neither do any of the other stores, so we have to go to eBay for these. Now, as far as the silent dampener cap and the Quietstove, same price. You're looking at about $49. It does take about a month and a half to get, minimum, to get the dampener cap, because it does come from Korea, where this one will be here in a couple of days, you know, as far as the Quietstove. So there definitely is a difference. So we are starting to get boiling right now. We're just under 2 minutes. Remember, we were at 3.5 minutes. So what we're trying to do is trying to see if there's any advantage to this pot. I think we're going to see about a 2.5 minute boil time here. Just at 2.5 minutes. And we have a full rolling boil just at 2.5 minutes. So just by adding this one pot, we've taken a minute off of an already ultra fast time. So let me go ahead and turn that guy off. And as you can see, I mean, it's definitely boiling. I'm not lying about that. I mean, it is a full boil. And even now, we're still under 3 minutes. So about 2 minutes faster than the standard Quietstove. Then adding the pot system we're telling you to get, definitely an advantage there, especially in larger boil times. And this stove system works all the way filled. So we've done 2.5 liter boil times, which is about all you can really get in here and be safe with boiling. So, and it actually does very, very well consistently, knocking a little bit of time off every single time we add water to it. Most stoves are going to work where if you can boil 2 cups of water, it's going to boil a certain time. You can knock a little bit of time off by adding a liter and knock a little bit of time after by doing 1.5 liters. Same idea here. There is a certain point where it runs out of that, where the burner is not able to heat that much water. This particular stove with this burner system we have here, very efficient, and the idea that it is able to run the pot completely full and still consistently knock those times off. So even at 2.5 minutes or 2.5 liters, we were just getting barely over 5 minutes. So definitely an advantage there. So this is Tate with the Black Bear Prepper. We will be talking to you guys later. If you have any questions, please subscribe. Please tell your friends about us. If you have a stove you want me to test, send it to me. I'll put it against these other stoves and see if we can make that happen. Like we said, we try to use the items that are best for that. But like, subscribe, and tell your friends. As always, have a great day.